Welcome back to the Delusion Rehab Podcast. My name is Lauren, and we are going to dive into the deepest delusion that I have yet to record on this podcast. I'm going to start right off with the delusion and jump right into this very juicy story. The delusion is simply this: if I change my mind, I'm obviously a hot mess. I've been taking my time to think about recording this episode. I'm almost recording it in a little bit of a sitting with a friend, having coffee kind of vibe. It's not going to be tailored. I'm not reading from hardly any notes because I'm gathering the fact that so much of the last 5 to 6 years of my life was from a very pivotal moment that happened in 2018. And it was a long time coming. And I know it seems kind of weird that I might think of my bottom of the pit moment as one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. But when you start to look at life that way, it changes the trajectory of every decision you make from here on out, and you start to really appreciate the pain and the hardship. Let's just jump right into what we're talking about. My Tinder date in November of 2018. How did I even get here? I got here from a litany of about 8 years worth of relationships that had meaning and then one day didn't feel like what I was supposed to end up with. And that is the best possible summation I could give to it, because all those relationships romantically were different. They all had something to them that really connected deeply with me. So to this day, I do not reject any of my past relationships as never should have happened. Like, they all needed to happen in their own way. I wholeheartedly believe it. And I'm not saying everyone ends up on Tinder because they hit rock bottom. Some people go there very casually, and some people turn to it in a moment of casual browsing, just wanting to see what's out there. Swipe left or right on whatever you see in your vicinity, whether you want to hook up or whether you want to find something truly connecting. And I guess I just had my moment of wanting to sow wild oats. And I don't think I was on Tinder to try to be risky or dangerous, but I thought this is the most non Lauren Wenner thing to do, would be to go on Tinder and just start talking to people. And I started to talk to somebody for privacy reasons. We will call him G. And he said he was at Mohegan Sun one night, and he messaged me at like 7:30 p.m. I was fully invested in something Netflix already, was in my pajamas, eating sushi that I most likely got takeout from my favorite spot ever. And, you know, 7:30 at night, someone's asking if I want to come to Mohegan Sun, which is a 45-minute drive in November. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty crazy and fun. And I never do things like that. So fast forward to an hour later, I'm putting on my fancy sequin dress and I'm calling my brother, who was the only person who even really knew I was dating online. He had had some success with it. So I was just trying to figure it out. And he's like, really? You're doing this? I'm like, yeah. And I know that we live like 3 or 4 hours apart, but I just feel like I need to tell somebody that I'm going to do this. I said I'm in a massively open place and I will be safe. And he's like, okay, go for it. I mean, what was anyone really going to tell me? I was a 26, 27-year-old, I guess, at the time. And I just was like, I'm single in Connecticut. What else can one do around here? So I show up to the casino again, very out of character. And I met this guy. We sat in a bar, had a good conversation. He was there for a work event. So it was kind of like a VIP blocked off area. It felt very, you know, prestige. And I think within an hour, we ended up kissing. And I just was walking around the casino with him, laughing, had drinks, just acting like I had known this guy forever. I think we had maybe talked on Tinder for 2 weeks. And yeah, it was becoming pretty clear pretty fast that he was interested in other things. The one thing I did not compromise in my dating life was how far I'd be willing to go. And I'll leave it at that. I never, ever felt pressured to do anything that I didn't want to do. And I could sense throughout the night that he was interested in going back to a room. And I pretty much flat out told him no. And he was bummed, of course. I thought to myself, yeah, this was 110% the expected outcome of this, Lar. And I can't believe that you haven't taken a time to think like maybe this is why people don't just find themselves on this app for the heck of it. And I recognize I'm being super vulnerable by telling you this story, but I think it really is my bottom of the barrel, bottom of the pit, crying out for help moment. The single most humbling thing I've done. The next morning, I led a worship service at my church. And I don't think I could have felt more like a hypocrite than I could have. Um, Most people that were there that morning don't even know that story. If they're listening to it now, they're hearing it now. And a couple days later, that guy texted me and told me that he had a good time at the casino, but he told me that I was too good of a girl for him. And I don't even know what emotion that evoked first, but I can tell you that most of the emotions that came up were related to frustration that I put myself out there in a really vulnerable way and didn't even get past one date. I was angry that all of the past relationships didn't work out because I thought if any of them did, I would not be here right now. And I even had to ask my brother in all of the days between the casino and that essentially break off text, how do you know if you're being ghosted by a guy? And he's like, if you're asking, then you've been ghosted, my friend. I'm like, okay. More humbling information coming from my only sibling. I should take it seriously. And I tell all of this vulnerable tale to bring to mind that usually this is a catalyst for someone to make a change, either be all in or all out on something. And it was for me. It was pivotally so intense that I remember falling to my knees in the shower later that day saying, God, I really want a good, wholesome man. And I am clearly now at the point of desperation that I'm looking where I shouldn't be. And it's really embarrassing because most people didn't even know that happened. And yet I was still so embarrassed for my own self in all of that going on. And So I have a good friend, and I will out him because he is truly so amazing in how friendships can last as long as they do. He's from Boyertown. His name's Adam. We graduated in 2010. We still talk. He lived in Connecticut for a little bit while I was here. Definitely a wingman for sure. And he was like, "Yeah, I always felt like girls get so afraid of the apps because of all of these people that just look for the wrong things." He's like, "Why don't you try this app called Coffee Meets Bagel?" And the whole premise of it was the guys could only like a certain number of profiles a day for free. If they wanted to go beyond a certain number, they'd have to start to pay the app. The women on the app can like as many profiles as they want because let's be honest, they're not liking that many. They're only liking, you know, maybe up to 5 or 6 a day, but it's tough. Like women on the apps truly have a higher caliber of what they're looking for. I'll say it. And I just liked the idea that guys really had to be thoughtful about what profiles they were swiping on. A couple weeks after that, I thought, I should be able to use the apps, but I need to be tailoring it to who I really want, meaning what values do they have and what characteristics and qualities suit me instead of just going after what looks good, who looks fun, what kind of lifestyle would I like to live? It's like, no, let's look at the person, not the package. And I don't know who needs to hear that right now, but it's like, don't look at the person as this is everything that comes with it. Look at the person as who are they even without me and without anyone else? Who can they stand as by themselves? I've been hearing a lot lately that people often go after the potential of a person and not the person themselves. And I think that I did that in some of my past relationships, unfortunately. I looked at things that I thought, oh, they might eventually come around and look at it my way. And I didn't need to change them. That was not my job in a relationship. And yet I think I took that on and sabotaged some of them that way. So turning to, yes, technology, but a means of being able to enjoy the process of learning who people are without all of the facade was pretty cool. The same week that I got ghosted by G, my brother said, "Didn't you say that you were interested in this guy, Dave, that was on the Coffee Meets Bagel app?" I said, "Yeah, I sent him a couple messages." He's like, "Why don't you talk to him? Why don't you actually put your effort into the guy that is giving you attention?" Which, again, that's a change. It's a change for me to pay attention to who is putting effort out there. There was something to be said about all of the times that I wanted to be there with somebody and in somebody's arena because they seemed like a fun cat and mouse game instead of, hey, like that's a person that can have a mutual connection with me instead of it being some type of competition. So I did end up talking more to Dave. We decided to meet up for coffee in Madison, Connecticut. And the rest is history. I mean, I made that shift in what I valued and what I wanted in a matter of weeks after spending 8 years trying to find my worth in other people. And the greatest change was finding the worth in myself first. And then seeing that those were values I cared about. And those were values I wasn't going to negotiate on. I started this podcast with the delusion of if I change my mind, I'm obviously a hot mess. I fall deep into imposter syndrome at the most random times in my life. I did a pod a couple weeks ago. You may have listened to it on imposter syndrome. It was actually a two-parter. And I think the reason I had to delve into it as much as I did is because it truly will steal your life. I remember several times in those 8 years of relationships that didn't quite fit or match me, thinking I could change this narrative. I could go ahead and look for people that make a lot more sense for me. I could go and take time to be instinctual about what people are telling me through their actions instead of trying to give the benefit of the doubt to the most flawed logic. And instead, I was walking into relationship after relationship thinking, I'll just have fun and eventually I'll figure it out. Because I think what I was more scared of was having such a 180 that people would call me a hot mess and a confused little girl, like completely unaware of what she wants to do and who she wants to be. And it scared me to think that people would judge me on that. And here I am coming back to a place that a delusion is centered around what other people think of me. But that's why I stayed in that mindset for so long, because I thought if people thought I was insane, that would feel worse than me living an uncomfortable life. That's hard to swallow. Like, I'd rather live uncomfortably in my own skin, in my own body, in my own life than I would having someone dislike me. That's craziness. But the second I got to my pit, the lowest point that I had found that I was fully in rejection of my own self and what I truly wanted deep down. And I was going after anything that was giving me a remote sense of attention. Like, that's what brought me to the realization I came to. That's craziness. I'm obviously in a place now where I recognize that life happens. I've come to know through doing my Growth Day app and through reading the Bible and being in prayer that so much of my 20s was meant to foundationally have me stand on who I know I am, like stand on the values that I grew up with, that I continue to live out in my own daily life, that I will teach Bella, and hopefully that will become her foundation too. Like, these values make me understand what is most important in every relationship going forward. But isn't it interesting that it took me to a full betrayal of self to get there, to finally realize that those values matter more than just something nicely written on paper? Those are foundational and God put them there. So if you change your mind about anything, I used this story, my famous Tinder story, as my catalyst into this topic of change. But are you afraid of taking a step of major change because it doesn't feel comfy? Or it feels like you might even get further judgment than you planned? That could be a sign that you're actually headed deeper into the clarity you need. I have seen and heard so much about clarity, having clarity of purpose and clarity of vision for your life and what your mission is. You know what it all means? It all means that if you keep changing your mind, you should be getting closer and closer to the most authentic version of yourself. I saw something tonight. I heard this really funny quote recently that says, Jesus wasn't perfect. Changing your mind can look like a lot of things. It can look like you taking a completely different direction in your career. It can be You deciding that you're going to draw a line in the sand and you're not going to continue a destructive behavior anymore. It can be a change of heart, that something that you really had put a lot of attention and effort into really isn't paying off the way that you thought it would, or it's just not turning out how you imagined it. And you decide to walk away from it. These changes are just getting you closer to what you authentically need in your life. Authenticity is the hardest thing to maintain in a world that wants you to buy and consume product fully meant for you to turn away from your authentic self, because we've been taught for so long that our authentic selves are not good enough. It is not anyone's direct fault that they would believe that about themselves. It is the product of living, especially in America, that we don't feel like we can be enough on our own and we need a lot of other things to be enough. And just because you're changing in any type of way, and maybe your mind has shifted gears, it's not a thing to be ashamed of. So, like I said, this was a very vulnerable story. And I know it probably sounded a lot different than all the other pods I had, but I wanted to be transparent in the fact that so much of my life has come out of this pivotal point in such an exponential way. I feel like I have grown so much deeper in my faith and in my self confidence and in my ability to carry myself in a way that feels like I have a strength in being now a mother who will raise children in this same level of confidence, that life is allowed to be altered. Decisions are allowed to change. And even when they change and other people don't like the change, that's on them. That's a them issue. That's a them problem. I want to share two songs with you that are kind of, they make a lot of impact on me. They take the essence of my faith and they take the essence of my reminiscence and combine them together. When I was a kid, there was a song called Dive by Stephen Curtis Chapman. I loved this song so much that I asked for it to be recorded over and over and over again on two sides of a cassette tape. And my dad did it for me. I think I still have that tape today. Now we have the gift of Spotify and I don't have to do that. But that song speaks to the fact that you just have to jump and take that leap of faith and dive as deep as you can and know that that's the purpose that you're on. It took all of those moments of betraying who I was and thinking that I couldn't change my mind on the type of people I was into and the type of lifestyle I wanted to live, because that would seem like I didn't know who I was and I was a fake and a fraud and an imposter and all the things. But the faith and integrating that into my life moving forward has really taken a deep, deep turn. The second song, Memory Lane by Zara Larson. I had just heard this song back in October. It speaks to the story of going back and looking at your college life, especially, and thinking, wow, I did all those crazy things. I met all those crazy people and I have all those memories. And yet I thank myself for who I became. That's my favorite lyric of the whole song. You know, I look back at all the joy and pain it talks about. Both exist, both experiences exist. We can't look at our past and think only about the joy. It's also hard to look at only the pain of the past. There's so much joy that permeates through, that is why nostalgia exists. But I'm okay with looking down memory lane if it means that I'm able to stand in the present and then even look towards my future and be like, wow, this was all a setup. It's not a setback. And I've mentioned that phrase several podcasts now. It's become a mantra of mine. I cannot look at all these things as setbacks. I have to look at them as setting up for what I'm coming into, man. And it is going to be so blessed because I know God has his hand all over it. and I can sing a little louder, as the song says, and thank myself for who I became because I did have to make that choice to change. And it did come with imposter syndrome. And yet I was able to conquer it because I said, I would rather look like a hot mess than be a hot mess. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this pod. It was my heart on a plate, let's be honest. Like and subscribe. Go check out the Instagram. Go check out these songs in the show notes so that you can feel the Lauren Wenner, Lauren Trotta vibes pour through. And I hope that you learn to take the delusion of change and embrace it, not reject it.